I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to go ahead and let Pablo go ahead and get started. The first is going to be damage attenuation. The next video, the Oberon rework in its entirety. Here we go.
Doesn't feel good. So what are we changing about this? We're changing a few things. So first, no more flat numbers. So the way it works right now is essentially all of those damage attenuation thresholds are set up by flat numbers. So imagine something like once you deal more than 10,000 damage in a second, the damage attenuation kicks in. Well, that works fine when you're like in normal. But once you're in Steel Path, 10,000 damage is kind of nothing, so that means the attenuation kicks in right away. Once you're obviously in Deep Archimedia, it means 10,000 damage, you apply, 100 times that. So it obviously is not very useful at that point. So instead of that, now it's going to be based on percentages, and that will allow it to scale much better throughout the game. So you'll never encounter now those 30-minute fights in Deep Archimedia. We're going to standardize it. Again, like I said earlier, we have many different versions. So there's like some that are affected by crit, some that are not, some that can be circumvented with fire rate, some that were made for a single boss. We have a whole bunch of different systems for this. We're going to standardize them all into one so that as a player, you have more clearer experience when you're playing against bosses, and it doesn't feel like it's all over the place depending on the boss that you fight. And it also makes it easier for us to maintain and be sure that it's working as expected because it's a single system, and as we touch it, it basically spreads throughout the game. We're lowering the attenuation. This is to address that other thing that I was saying, which is that at a certain point you feel like your upgrades no longer kind of matter for bosses because the damage attenuation kicks in too early. So right now there's some bosses where attenuation kicks in like when you have almost no gear, you immediately starts kicking in. So with these new numbers, it's much more forgiving. It takes significantly longer for those the damage attenuation to kick in. It's hard to give you like precise numbers because again, it also will scale based on the level that you're fighting. But if you're something like Deep Archimedia, you probably can have an Incarnon with Roar and you'll have a hard time kicking into the damage attenuation. Basically, it'll be hard to break into that barrier where the damage attenuation starts to intervene. So hopefully with that, you'll feel more the effects as you get gear and as you get stronger, you'll be able to see larger numbers against those bosses. Obviously, if we just did that, the bosses would die immediately. So overall, we're changing the effective health of those bosses since we know where you're going to fight them. So we know like if you're fighting one in Steel Path, we know the sort of gear that we can expect from you to have on Steel Path. We know what sort of gear we can expect from you in something like Deep Archimedia or on normal. So we're going to tweak the health of those bosses to deliver a similar experience to what it is today on kind of our target gear. Is going to be a similar amount of time, but that does mean that because now it's health and not attenuation, if you get better gear, you kill the boss faster. If you have lesser gear, you kill the boss slower. So now your gear actually matters more. The other thing is we're fixing it for multiplayer. Right now, the way it works is once attenuation kicks in for one player, it kicks for everyone. So with this new version, let's say you're super veteran with all the gear in the world, attenuation will kick in, but it won't affect someone that has more middle of the road gear playing with you. It'll have to apply for each person. So, yeah. So there's way too many bosses. It's a very large change. There's a lot of bosses. There's a lot of versions. The normal, the Steel Path, the Deep Archimedia, the hard modes. There's many variants, and obviously there's a lot of different kind of combinations with different Warframes, different weapons and whatnot. So we're definitely expecting that once this releases, we're still gonna need to tweak it some. As you guys test it out and you play it and you give us the experience, you'll say like, hey, Paolo, this boss now is taking too long to kill, and then we'll probably nerf it. And then you'll say, oh, this one now just drops when I shoot it twice. We'll probably buff that one. And then basically, we're going to need your feedback to help us figure out the things that need touching. A great example, for example, is the Tridolon. We've tried it with the best gear on live and on dev, and it feels pretty similar to us. But if you're out there and you say like, hey, I could do 27 runs per night before, and now I can only do 26, we'll take a look and we'll see what we can do. Anyways, I'll be back to talk about Oberon later. I'll see you then. Adios.
I actually had a prediction, a hypothesis that they were actually going to bump up health as a part of a tweak and tone down of damage attenuation. I really felt strongly that that was a part of it. And for me personally, I would much rather have enemies that are in Steel Path have like hundreds of millions of health, like billions of health, as opposed to having damage attenuation, because at least with like billions of health, our weapons would be doing their full damage. I would have been even happy with that. So this is phenomenal. And with all that he said, hopefully it'll feel a lot better, but the only way we're truly going to know how all of these changes are going to interact with each other at the game, our builds, the way we enjoy playing, cheese builds excluded, because most of us don't run one-shot map-wide builds. The only way we're truly going to know is after it is implemented. So, fingers crossed, Pablo has been cooking banquets steadily back to back, and I'm eager to see how it feels. Now, on to the Oberon rework.
Hello. I'm back this time to talk about Oberon Rework. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. Basically talk its abilities not in the order that they're listed, but in the order that you kind of use them in mission. So hopefully that'll make some sense. So let's start with his third ability, Renewal. So Renewal is a heal over time. It now applies on affinity range instead of a fixed range. The ability cost is now fixed. It doesn't change. Before it increased for every ally that got it. So if you had any party members with summons and stuff like that, it could get extremely expensive for you to sustain the ability. So you no longer have that problem. You also don't need to recast if they lose it. Before you had to, if they were nullified or if they fell into a hole, you had to be recasting the ability. Now you don't need to do that, so that's pretty good. It also increases armor for you and your allies. So you can see in that upper right, I have a 638. That is how much armor Renewal is giving me. And for allies, it gives twice as much. So you can actually protect them quite a bit with that. Also, the heal is doubled when used on Hallowed Ground. So let's put a Hallowed Ground here. So right now the heal is even doubled right now. You can see I cast it this way. What is this? Hallowed Ground is now a circle. No longer a cone. You no longer need to mod extreme ranges to cover the area. It is now always radial, so much easier to maintain. We also improved quite a bit how it works on separate distances like that. So you can see it actually went up here to protect, and it's no longer... It used to have a lot of issues when you try to use it in different elevations. So now it actually adapts quite well to things like this. Additionally to that, it now does radiation much more reliably. Before it was like a chance to deal radiation once per second. Now it's guaranteed radiation twice per second. So you can see enemies are getting to 10 stacks of radiation pretty quickly, which synergizes really well with something like Arcane Fallout. You can see the orbs are there. I should probably use this thing before my yapping kills us all. We also upgraded how Hallowed Ground interacts with nullifiers. So the way it used to work is as soon as a nullifier touched any part of the Hallowed Ground, it would basically dispel it, which was pretty annoying because Hallowed Ground could be quite big. So now it will only prevent the effects of Hallowed Ground on allies that are inside the bubble or on enemies that are inside the bubble. It will no longer dispel the ground. We also made that change for Oraxia, and we also made a few other changes to to 3 other interactions with nullifiers. Let me talk about his passive. So you see those shields that I have around me? Those are his new passive. Whenever Oberon picks up a health orb, he will get 1 protection like that, and will give it to his allies as well. And that protection, what it does is when you take a hit, you take no damage. So you can see that absorbed the entire damage for the entire damage attack. So basically you can use that to be like fully protected as long as you're getting orbs, which is pretty easy to do when you have Fallout, or later we'll talk about some other way to get that. Oberon's 1, there's an Eximus, who's a good target to use it on. So you see, when I cast it, it immediately removed all of his overguard in one shot, and it does percentage damage, and then does a secondary hit around them for that percentage of damage to enemies around it. So units that have a lot of health, so that the damage then they deal around them is higher. See him? There you go. So the entire overguard is gone, and you see it killed a bunch of enemies around it because he has quite a bit of health. So his fourth ability now has line of sight, so you have to be careful where you use it. Now when you use it, it will always strip armor, which I guess I didn't choose the best place to showcase that because they don't have armor, but the armor strip no longer requires you to have them on the grass. It will work in any situation. It does way more damage now, something like more than triple, I think, and also scales based on how many stacks of radiation they have on them, so that deals even more damage. It also gives you armor for every enemy you hit, and it also scales with how many stacks of radiation you have. So in the top there, now it says 1288. If you remember earlier, it was like 600 and something, so it now gives you even more armor there, which obviously synergizes really well with then giving armor to your allies and protecting them of everything that's going around them. Also, this ability always used to give health orbs. We just picked some of those. But they used to be very hard to do because you had to get the exact kill with the fourth, which is tough to do because obviously, you know, there's a whole bunch of other AoEs and stuff going. Now it marks enemies, so when you kill them, they still drop the orbs. You can see the orbs flying there, even though I didn't kill them with the ability. Just the fact that I used the ability on them marked them to basically get those, be able to drop those orbs, which obviously synergizes really well with his passive to give you the protective stacks that you see around me so that enemies cannot kill me. And that's about it. That's the whole kit. Hopefully you understood. Like, I'm sorry I gave it out of order, but I think hopefully that made more sense than if I tried to explain it in order. But who knows? You'll tell me if I should not do that ever again. For more details, because there's a lot of nitty-gritty details that I couldn't go over in this video, you can find those in the dev blog, and it'll go into way more detail than I did here. Hopefully you're excited to try it out. I'll see you soon. Adios, adios, adios. Take care, take care, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Oberon is going to be straight up insane. He's going to be so good. Full armor strip outside of his spawnable garden, essentially. You know, the tweaks to the radiation procs. Oh man. And the fact that you can actually give your teammates more armor than yourself, that's actually kind of a nice support ability. I know where armor is currently. Armor is atrocious right now. I know it is, but for those that don't have that much, or those that are like just below the threshold of what you need in order to make it viable, are going to benefit from this greatly. And those who are shield tankers who run with Oberon are not going to get instantaneously vaporized by a toxin proc. At least, you know, for base steel path. So I know overall people are going to overlook that, but it will actually be nice. It will actually help some. Now that percentage damage is quite juicy. Target big enemies to wipe out all of their lackeys. This is gonna be nice. I can already see people rubbing their hands together like a hungry fly to make him absolutely ridiculous. Oh man, I cannot wait to see the builds that are gonna come out. I love that. Hopefully, by the way, with the way that his hollowed ground tracks at different elevations, I really hope that they're also going to do that for Nidus. And I do hope that Nidus gets a bit of a touch-up, because, you know, they have that ability that's basically the same, but reskinned, and I would like to have his infested growth tweaked and made a bit better. I really would like to see Nidus touched up after Oberon. But let's continue to the mushroom frame.
Amazing. And this comes out later next year?
No, it comes out October 15th.
Well, that's soon.
What?
That soon?
So
Amazing.
you will find a whole area to explore, mushroom patches to find,
Amazing.
loot to grab.
Yep.
As you can see, this is a critter liberation. So we will be freeing the vermink from the labs. What we've done here is we've done it in a way that is a brand new tile set based off of the Fortuna vibes that connects to the very Corpus Labs you'll know from the open world. But it's not actually an open world, like it doesn't connect in a way that lets you go free roam, so you are sort of capped by only doing the mines. So this is our way of giving you something big this year, soon, without making a whole other open world, but it's like, it's big, so.
Do not try to say critter liberation fast.
I already made that mistake, I'm sure.
Don't say it fast.
Critter liberation.
Yeah, that is, that's risky.
Yeah.
That one.
So let's take a look at Nokko.
Well, this is amazing. This looks great.
looks
Are we gonna look at some of the
Yeah, we can go on
the kit here?
Yeah, we're gonna go on a little adventure. I'm actually gonna start with Nokko's third ability because I think people will be waiting for this. Actually, no, we'll start with this first.
You know what? Oh, okay.
This is Stink Brain.
Stink brain.
Stink brain.
So what you'll find with Nokko is he's a very fun guy, and he's throwing all his different mushroom types. This is Bright Bonnet. So these are two different mushroom types, and the general theme and idea is that you want to get these mushrooms out, get them pulsing, so that you're sort of making a garden of fungi around the battlefield. They each have different effects. Steve, do you want to read them off the sheet?
Yeah, Stink Brain, I kind of do this anyway, but it throws a mushroom that periodically sheds poisonous spores, inflicting DT_viral_color viral damage and status effect upon nearby enemies. Clearly that's taken from a log tag in the game.
Sure, and what about, oh, no. What about...
Bright Bonnet, though, releases a rejuvenating mushroom that emits a radial pulse, increasing Nokko and his allies' energy and applying a buff to ability strength that lasts for a short time.
And what about his third ability?
Reroute. Are we seeing this yet?
I'm gonna do it.
Okay. Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Reverting to sprawdling form, that is a word.
Sprawdling.
Sprawdling. Causing Nokko to heal rapidly. While in this state, Nokko is untargetable and releases spores that lull nearby enemies to sleep.
So you can walk him.
Very interesting theme to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at him!
Oh my god.
You can walk on the little ladder. And yes, you can like float, and you can pulse around.
These little guys have very shapely posteriors.
I know.
Eh?
You take
Is
Ember
this
Heirloom.
the
They have
what
cute little
Jeff was
butts.
talking about?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
You can see, well, they've been jumping a lot. So I
That's
guess
true.
that,
That's true. They're getting that posterior workout in. Love it. And then the fourth ability,
Yep.
Spore Spring, unleashes a chaotic ballistic mushroom that seeks enemies and bounces explosively off whatever it touches.
So this is basically... All right, let's see what we can do here.
So yeah, contact with any of Nokko's mushrooms invigorates them, doubling their effect triggering rate. Is that also on enemies as well now, or
yeah,
from
so
your
really,
description?
so you can see that I cast a Stink Brain, I'm
Yep.
cast
So the very first thing that I can say is his survivability, theirs, whatever they are, is mad overpowered. You cannot be targeted and you put people to sleep? Woo-wee. Yeah, he's basically the next invincibility frame. That alone is gonna be wild. I would like to see how he's gonna play in, like, really chaotic Steel Path missions, but I already know if you happen upon my video, particular Warframe tuber. Let's just say you're gonna have something to say about letting this mushroom frame's animations shine. And, you know what? I'm gonna be putting casting speed shards as well. Cause his 1 and 2, I'm gonna want those all over the field a lot faster than his base casting speed. Yeah, I'm with you on this one, buddy. But it's looking very cool. Very interesting as well. The fact that you're gonna be able to proc viral is nice. The one thing that I will say is the radius of those mushrooms. Like, it does seem like you can spam a lot. I would like to see more range on those mushrooms, but let's go ahead and wait and see, right? Which is the most important thing. We need to wait until we have it in our hands to see how it feels in real missions. So I'm curious to see just how much more range you can add to the radius of each mushroom, if that is something we can actually do, which I'm hoping so. I feel like it probably would be. Now, this is something that I personally am very excited about. Look at this. 2 arcane slots. A primary and a secondary. Already the very first thing that I thought of for arcanes. primary Deadhead and secondary Innovate are going to be the go-to. Now, this is assuming there are no limitations or lockouts of specific arcanes for Archguns. Now, I'm just going to be really blunt about this. Trash as Archguns have been for so long, I'm really hoping there won't be any locked out or certain arcanes that are just not allowed to be put in combination or whatever on the Archguns. Be aware, maybe that's a thing, but because they've been so bad and they themselves know how horrible they are, I really, really am hoping that there are no limits and we can use any and every arcane, because they are supposed to be heavy weapons, game-changing weapons, like it alters the course of the battlefield type stuff. That's the first thing I'm going to try, if I can. Primary Deadhead and secondary Innovate. And I am very excited to see what kind of crazy primary and secondary arcane combinations people are going to come out with for each respective Archgun. Me personally, I have a Kuva Grappler, and that is going to be one of the very first things that I do is play around with arcane combinations. I am so happy about that. And we are getting Nightcrawler, essentially.
What need has a devil for forgiveness? When hell is a lie spun by madmen.
In some regard.
That was me throwing my wallet at the screen. What the hell is this? That's not allowed.
The depth of the Entradi guilt with the Orokin could only be explored through something perhaps relating to an Orokin protoframe that Entradi himself orchestrated. So you will be meeting the first Orokin protoframe, taking the role of Uriel. His name is Roth. You will meet him. All the story, all the pieces will come together to you. Roth, R-O-A-T-H-E, is the first Orokin protoframe that will be the people are noticing something.
Chat's tuning
It's a
into
what?
this. Yeah, noticing stuff.
Not so sure. His voice might sound familiar.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. That's right. That's right. Okay.
I always loved Nightcrawler as a kid, you know. You guys remember the X-Men that was on VHS? You know, with the, like, at least for me, the best sounding theme song? You know, da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na, da-na. Oh, the 90s X-Men were just, magnifique. So, like, I'm kind of hoping for kind of a mix-up combo of maybe kind of Valkyr-esque, but also a caster with fire and stuff like that. Just, I want him to feel incredibly physically strong, fast, fueled by rage, and just, I just want him to be the most vicious little guy. That is what I want. And the fact that he's blue as well raises a lot of interest. So I'm very curious to see how his little story develops. And those are the things that are important to me. Also, we're getting a tiny little mushroom. What do they call it? A sprottling? Stuffy, which is cute. We are getting a lot of potted plants. And there's more stuff that I didn't cover because these were the biggest things. We are going to increase our pant sizes with how well we are being fed. I can't wait. Also, I'm going to tell you a planet that, in the next video, I'm going to tell you a planet that I personally farm for Orokin cells. You know, I've tried Gabi, I've tried Draco. You know, I've tried these other things, but the one that has been most consistent for me is a planet that I'm going to talk to you about in the very next video. Also, I haven't touched Patreon for a while, but I really truly would like to keep this channel ad-free. I genuinely would want to. So, if you would also like to help to ensure that happens, I do have a Patreon. It'll be linked in the description below. I do have a massive backlog of almost 600 audio stories that I have narrated myself, included with audio, sound effects, special effects, whatever you want to call them. So if you would also like to help keep this channel ad-free, because I personally hate them, but I also need to make a living. You know, that's the crux of it, to be honest. Then you can check out that link in the description. And that's the video, y'all. I hope y'all have a good day, a good night, and may RNG be in our favor.